I'm Loren Steffi, business columnist for the Houston Chronicle, and welcome to another edition of Friday Bookshelf. Today I'm actually going to be talking about two books, both on the same subject, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and its future. Now you may wonder why we care, why the future of Saudi Arabia is even deserving of two books, but in fact Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil producer, and in America we are the world's largest oil consumer. So what happens in Saudi Arabia has a very direct economic impact on the United States, and it's part of the reason that a lot of our foreign policy towards Saudi Arabia has been structured the way it has been for the past 30 years. We need to maintain that relationship in order to maintain the flow of oil. Both of these books are very thoroughly researched by authors who have been to Saudi Arabia, who've been going there for decades. The first is Saudi Arabia on the Edge by Thomas Lippman, and the second book is On Saudi Arabia by Karen Elliott House. Lippman's book is very thorough in its research. He was started out as a Washington Post reporter going to the kingdom, and now works for the Council on Foreign Affairs. He spent quite a bit of time in Saudi Arabia. He knows a lot of Saudi officials, and he understands the society and the customs. His book is much more academic in nature. He takes kind of the 10,000-foot view of what's going on in the kingdom, if you will. He sees a lot of the changes as sort of minor and cosmetic shifts. While it may have some profound impact around the margins of Saudi society, to the rest of the world, it's probably not going to make a visible difference. If Saudi Arabia, for example, grants women more rights, the right to drive or the right to vote, he doesn't see it as having a lasting effect. In fact, if anything, he sees that as the way that the ruling Saud family is going to maintain its hold on power in Saudi Arabia. So his conclusions are actually very different from House's, and her approach is also quite different. House started going to Saudi Arabia as a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. She'd done that for a number of years. And her reporting is much more what I would call street level, I guess you'd say. She spent a lot of time talking to average Saudi citizens, which is not easy to do. She also interviewed almost every member of the royal family in some capacity, which was also quite an accomplishment. As some of you know, if you've read my blog for a few years, I went to Saudi Arabia myself a few years ago, and it's a very interesting and paradoxical society. It takes a while to really understand how things work. Everybody sort of assumes that you know, but nobody will tell you. And so when you go there as a reporter, it's a very, very difficult society to break into, to get anybody to talk to you. And you really have to spend a lot of time building relationships, meeting people face to face. When you go there as a journalist, you're assigned a government handler to make sure that you're going where they want you to go, and that you're talking to only the people they want you to talk to. And so I actually went there right as the Arab Spring was taking off, especially in Bahrain. There was a lot of concern about what was happening there. And the government was very cagey about where I could go and who I could meet with. So I think one of the things I found very, very interesting about House's book is that she really takes you inside sort of the day-to-day life of the average Saudis. She talks to young men who are unemployed and who feel listless and don't have a lot of inspiration to achieve anything because the kingdom takes care of them. She talks to women about their desire to have more rights, to be able to drive, to be able to vote, things like that. And so really you get a much more sort of ground level perspective of the fundamental changes that are likely coming in Saudi society. House's conclusions are the exact opposite of Lippman's, and that is that the changes that we're seeing sort of on the margins are going to grow and grow, and they're going to become more profound. And if the kingdom doesn't adapt, it could result in perhaps even the downfall of the House of Saud. And so I think that it's very telling that we have these two excellent books, both of which come to completely opposite conclusions. And I had to chuckle when I saw them both side by side and began reading them, because I think that was very much how I came away from my own experience with Saudi Arabia, that it is very much a society of paradoxes, and it is very, very hard for us as Westerners to figure out what is going on there. But I think that when you read these two books together, you get a very good overall picture of Saudi Arabia, both the broader political perspective as well as the street level perspective. So again, Tom Lippman's book is Saudi Arabia on the Edge, Karen Elliott House on Saudi Arabia. I think this one is the more readable of the two, but they're both excellent, so I would encourage you to check them out. For the Houston Chronicle, I'm Loren Steffi.